Welcome to the RomaPress Podcast with John Solano and Andy Mattioli.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the RomaPress Podcast. We hope you are doing very, very well. Very quickly, a thank you to our newest patrons over at Patreon, Vito Urli and Felix Grip. Thank you both for your support. And, of course, to all of our other wonderful patrons who make all of this possible. If you would like to join the group chat, get early access to episodes, you can go to patreon.com/RomaPress. All right, Andy. So we are back. We're going to break down all of the transfer market related items. At the very top, which is something that emerged over the past few days, is Roma and their pursuit of Alvaro Morata. When posed to the group chat, a very divisive figure again, much like Scamacca, much like Belotti. Seems like Roma seem to be, at least at this point, allergic to finding players that there is a unilateral consensus on the quality of said player, but it is what it is. Just from a baseline standpoint, Morata, are you a fan or no? Because if you were to ask somebody like, I don't know, a manager who, like Zeman, if you were to ask him versus Max Allegri, now, of course, one is a loser, the other is not, but I'm sure these two guys would have very different views on this player. Again, Allegri, he has a hard-on, it seems, for the strikers that, how do I put it kindly, work very, very, very hard, but perhaps maybe lacking in goal output. For me, it depends entirely on your point of view, on how you view that level of contribution. If, somebody like Belotti lacking in goals last season, you are not going to be terribly bothered when you see him working incredibly hard. But if you don't value that, of course, you are going to be extremely annoyed by his inability to find that back of the net consistently. So where do you come out on this? Because Morata, I have to admit, I like how hard he does work. But when I look at the body of work, let's go through tallies of league goals in his last seasons. This is one of the few times where we are putting in the hard work. Okay. So last season with Atleti, 13 goals in 36 league appearances. The previous season at Juve, 9 league goals in 35. The season before that with Juve, 2020-21, 11 league goals in 32. And before that, Atleti again, 12 goals in 34 league appearances. I mean, meh. That is essentially my. If you could summarize my feelings on this guy, it's that. It's meh. Just one of those bland, tasteless dishes.
Well, it's with Morata, you get something, you lose something. You get a player that knows Serie A, that I think thrives the most in Serie A. That perhaps this time around could be even more useful. Perhaps this time around also changes that dimension, goes to a team that has different ambitions, works differently, and maybe in a way, with the way he plays, he could unlock other players. We're also looking to, I mean, this season you want to have somebody like Lorenzo Pellegrini scoring goals. You want to have somebody like Houssem Aouar scoring goals. You want the whole team to click, because we know that last season we lacked very much so the goal scorer in Lorenzo Pellegrini. The whole attacking department, with the exception of Paulo Dybala, was struggling. But it also seemed like, just because those guys were, they couldn't do anything right. It seemed like they every decision that they made worked against them. The duo of Belotti and Tammy, and And with Morata, you would hope to have another guy who specializes in, for example, at Juve, very often you'd find Morata basically playing on the wing, drawing attention away from somebody that would slot in and score. And in Juve's case, very often it was somebody random, like Weston McKennie. Like all of a sudden this guy pops out and goes and scores because Morata was able to draw it. It's that kind of player, kind of like Mandzukic was at a certain point
Kind
in
of.
his
He's the Spanish Mandzukic.
in his
I
in
mean,
his
Allegri talks about him the exact same way too.
yeah, pretty much, because I mean, Mandzukic again is a player that was molded in Allegri's vision. Like after his experiences at Bayern and Atletico, he goes to Juve, and he's molded that there, and he becomes the player that he is. And kind of Morata is the same way. Like Morata felt a bit helpless outside of Massimiliano Allegri's range, and I think with Jose Mourinho at Roma, he could find a similar playbook. Doesn't mean that this is a player that excites me by, it's a name I'm familiar with. I think it's a name that, if anything, appeals to me just because you're getting a player that knows what's going on in this league, is eager to return to Italy. This is, I think, again, his place. It's his dimension. This is what his style is suited for. It's not suited for Atletico. It's not suited for the Premier League. He likes Serie A, and it works for him. And I think he's not the player who lights the whole attack on fire. He's not the one who sets the spark. He's not. And it wouldn't be fair to him to bring him over and make him do that, because he's not that type of player. That's Dybala. Dybala is supposed to be. So the hope with any signing this summer is to have Dybala healthy for the season, and to have any of the signings coming in, they have to be able to work off Paulo Dybala's brilliance, because Paulo Dybala, when he's on, and he basically has the whole team, going around, and he, the way he gives, like, the boost he gives this team is unlike any other player on Jose Mourinho's roster. And so the most important, like, I don't expect, because you don't expect, for example, somebody like Gianluca Scamacca to come in and light the attack on fire. Gianluca Scamacca went double digit in Serie A once. It was impressive. The season before he was acquired by West Ham was a really good season, but that's about it. It's not like, if you don't go for Scamacca, you go for, if you don't go for Morata, you go for Scamacca, and all of a sudden your problems are resolved. You're looking still at a player that is coming off a year of ups and downs, of injuries, and who had, yes, a good season before in Serie A before leaving to the Premier League, but that's as far as his experience in Italy goes. That's, and so you're not getting a finished product. You're not getting a player that can be labeled a difference maker, right from the get-go. And the same goes for Morata. Despite being more experienced in Serie A, he is a player that thrives when the team is doing well, or when he has a partner in crime who is putting him in a position to win, and we know him most of the time for his misses. We know him for his offside goals. I think in this transfer window, for what Roma are looking for, and given the circumstances that led Roma to, I mean, think about how much energy you're wasting right now trying to find a replacement to Tammy Abraham. That injury doesn't happen on the last match day. Right now, you'll probably have your midfielder. You probably have your, I don't know, Marcel Sabitzer or whoever it is secured. Right in your pocket. Instead, you're still out there wading through water, trying to understand what's feasible, what's sustainable. Can we spend this much money? Why? Because Tammy Abraham got injured, and you're looking to replace him. But you can't replace him with just whoever. You need somebody who still gives you some kind of I wouldn't say even certainty, but some kind of support. You need another body there. You need somebody who knows how to read situations. You need to have somebody that likes to cut in between the defenders. You need to know you need to have somebody who's strong physically. And honestly, Morata kind of fulfills those criteria. Just that at the end of the day, the most important key in Roma's attack is to have somebody that thrives playing off of Paulo Dybala. Because I feel like last season we saw Dybala have a brilliant season, but a lot of his teammates were almost thrown off by how good he was at times. They always felt like they felt a bit diminished by how good he was. So sometimes it's just you could feel that they're not able to read him as well as they would like to. And
That's a
and
great
and so
point.
many wasted chances by Tammy, by Belotti on occasions that Dybala put them in, because maybe there is something that where they weren't able to read him as well as they should have. And I think that's the key. Roma in this transfer window need to understand that Paulo Dybala is their style of play. Paulo Dybala is the marquee signing. So whoever you get in the attack needs to know how to read Dybala. And that's really it. So for me, that goes beyond names, goes beyond the appreciation of whoever player. To be honest with you, neither Scamacca or Morata really do it for me. I'm not like
Yeah.
rooting with a flag and chanting one's name over the other. It doesn't work like that for me. For me, it's important to have somebody that's functional to the way Dybala plays. Because as soon as you steer clear away from Dybala, you lose something. This team has to cling on to him, has to recognize how brilliant he is, and play into that and sort of work towards expanding Dybala's range. Dybala can be a really special player. He had a special season last year, but I think this, if you give him somebody that knows how he moves and knows how he plays and knows where to go when Dybala goes left or when he goes right, then that's really more important than any other name, than any other number of goals scored. It's just there has to be the facilitator. That's really what you need in the attack. The facilitator, not the guy who, stumbles and tramples and flails and fails to score when needed to.
Yeah, 100%. A couple of things to add to what you said. Yes, they are trying to find that name. Yes, neither Scamacca Morata inspires a ton of enthusiasm. The problem is, though, as we can all see, as evidenced by UEFA announcing that Roma uh, fulfilled the requirements of the break even for the financial year 2022. I mean, it seemed like, Andy, we had it won a trophy essentially because a couple of things happened. One, Roma, they did fulfill it. And two, Juve did not. So that just kind of goes to show, and you don't have to look beyond further too. I mean, the overall spend between Premier League and everybody else. I mean, this market truly is, like when you were a child who wanted to go to the cinema. Parents said you have to pay for it though. You can go, and you are in the sofa just trying to find any coin that you can find, any sort of coin that will get you just slightly further to be able to go. I mean, that is what Serie A, that is what the Bundesliga, Liga 1, everybody is doing at the moment. I mean, trying to get big deals over the line is so difficult. Roma are essentially at the market right now with no budget. You don't walk into the jeweler store wanting to buy a diamond ring without any money or credit. That's what they are trying to do, and that makes it difficult. I mean, you brought up another guy, Sabitzer. These are the kind of deals that Roma need to do. They have to be loans. You are not going to get anybody for big money right now on a permanent deal. Not going to happen. If you want to acquire somebody first, I think Roma will have to secure a sale for somebody as well. Who that could be remains to be seen. There are a couple of names out there currently as to who could still leave the club. But not only, again, are they doing this with very few opportunities available on the market, they are essentially having to do their entire market by structuring deals in a way where they front little to no cash up front, which is incredibly difficult to do. I mean, Andy, when West Ham, and this is kind of what adds a bit of levity to life when you get depressed about some of the lack of action on the transfer market, not only related to Roma, but every club outside of the Premier League. I mean, could you imagine after West Ham meet with I don't know, Bournemouth or Leicester or some team like that about the player, and then they come to meet Roma and a team that fighting for the top places of Serie A, one of the bigger clubs in the league. I mean, they are essentially asking you to hand over Gianluca Scamacca, a guy that they broke the bank for 1 year ago. They are essentially coming to you with scraps, asking to you to do a charity deal for them to loan the guy. I mean, I could only imagine where, Leicester willing to hand over like 10, 12, 15 million for a guy on loan or something absurd. And meanwhile, Roma and every other club outside the Premier League essentially asking to you to do a huge favor or act of charity. I mean, again, this is not strictly related to Roma, but those are the parameters in which they are operating, and it is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. So I do not in any way envy Tiago Pinto. My only fear, and I forget who on my timeline tweeted this yesterday, so please forgive me for failing to give proper credit, but somebody tweeted out a photo of Antonio Conte, and their tweet said, "This is going to be Jose Mourinho within 1 to 2 weeks." And it was the photo of Conte when he is giving that big complaint interview about Inter, the lack of deals on the market. I was told I would get Lukaku. Now we are going on week 4 of trying to get this guy and negotiating over pennies and things like that. I actually fear that may happen, because while it is nice that Roma were able to get Awar and Dika for free in June, which it should not be discounted in any way, shape, or form, because if those guys did not arrive on free deals, if you had them under contract, in Dika you could get easily 25, or would cost you easily 25 to 30. Awar, I don't know, 15 to 20 would be my assumption. So those are not things to discount so easily. However, I do fear that Jose Mourinho, because we saw when he landed, the first thing he said was, "I expect nothing from the market. Zero. My expectations are non-existent." Do you fear we may get the Antonio Conte adjacent blow-up interview from Jose Mourinho?
I don't. I think Mourinho is looking around the league just the same as we do, and seeing that Inter are cashing in almost 60 million with Onana's sale, and
Yeah,
now
everybody is funding their entire markets by huge sales. Yeah, Milan,
they are
Inter.
yeah, well, in theory, because then they go and they ask Morata, well, how much is your release clause, and his agent says, well, it's 20 million actually, and they're like, no, we can't do that. How come you just cashed in 60 million? What's going on? Where's that money
Right.
going? And that's an issue with all the clubs. Juventus can't seem to find an
They
agreement
can't
for
give Vlahovic away.
for Zacharias sale. They can't give Vlahovic away. They have to renew now Artur Melo's contract in order to loan him to Fiorentina.
The
Serie
Justin Kluivert special,
broken.
fantastic.
Serie A is broken. So Roma are the only club that haven't spent a single dime this window, and I think honestly, with what's been happening, that's actually a positive thing. Like, I can't, for me, it's this. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I still considered this a game. But the way you see this stuff being operated, the way you see these teams try and make sense of signings. I mean, it's a broken system because you can't even scout properly. Like every single team basically is reaching for the same targets. Frattesi, Morata, Scamacca. These are not only names that Roma are linked to. These are names that have been linked to Juve, Inter, Milan, Napoli. Every single team is basically looking at the same names. Why? Because every big team is in the same situation financially. They have problems. Like Genoa now, that were just promoted, are apparently going to spend 15 million on Retegui. That's more than any of the big clubs have spent in cash, proper cash, not the type of deal that Inter makes for Frattesi. Proper cash, more than any other club in Italy. 15 million. Think about it. Like the fact that Roma 2 years ago were able to pay whatever they paid for Tammy Abraham already is like, wow, that's mind blowing. Now we are looking at Genoa and everybody's losing their shit because not a single team, much less so the reigning champions in Italy, Napoli, they can't do anything about it. They have to renew the loan of Gollini, of a backup goalkeeper. Like,
Right.
that's the reality of the situation. So when I think of Mourinho, when he lands in Italy and he says, I have zero expectations, it's because he's grown familiar. He's part of the landscape now. He knows what's going on. When he first came here, he came from a totally different reality. He came from Tottenham, which wasn't, the greatest reality, but it was still a Premier League reality. And that's the thing, is that this is a team that has problems, but it's not the only team. The whole sport in Italy is broken. Clubs are everybody's trying. Like even today, did you hear that Giuntoli signs with Juventus, makes his first speech? What does he say? I'm here because the club wants to be more sustainable. That's the
Right.
same word
Yes.
that Tiago Pinto uses, that Marotta uses, that Milan's management use. Everybody is dealing with the same problems. It's to me, that's it's fascinating and sad at the same time, because there is no room for growth, because exactly when you have a problem and you want a signing, you want to find somebody, you're basically dealing with the same names. You're working with word of mouth. You're working with agents. Everybody's friends with everybody. Marotta has the same contacts as Tiago Pinto. It just, that's the part, is that you can always only count on exactly Morata, Scamacca, Morata. Juventus, maybe they will sell Vlahovic, maybe they will go for Romelu Lukaku. If not for Romelu Lukaku, they will go for Scamacca. Inter, Romelu Lukaku off the table. Okay, well, there's Alvaro Morata available, right? So it's it gets pretty tiring. But I think that's why it's important to consider the overall situation is utterly depressing in Serie A. Like how this, to the point where even if you are a top club that has been to a Champions League final, has played a Champions League final like Inter, and the first thing you do in the transfer window is sell your starting goalkeeper who had an excellent performance in the Champions League final, you sell him just like that, and you lose your star defender for many, many years on a free to PSG in Milan Skriniar, and you sell your best midfielder in Marcelo Brozovic for peanuts to Saudi Arabia. That's the sad realization. So for me, Mourinho right now is like, whatever, he's going into his third year at the club. This is his last year at the club. If it goes according to plan, if the contract works out, and honestly, all the season pans out.
Lots of positivity today, I see, man.
I'm just, it's but you said I'm saying that he won't be surprised. You said he's gonna get a breakdown, a nervous breakdown. I'm just saying he's gonna be indifferent. He's gonna be indifferent because he knows the reality of the situation by now. So last year you worked and worked and worked for over a month and a half on Gini Wijnaldum's loan, on a loan with an option to buy for what, 8 to 10 million, something like that. That was a big deal, but it took you so long. So Everybody here is just trying to make a living in Serie A. Not everything is as rosy and flowery and beautiful as in the Premier League, where you can just,
Right.
20 million easy. Like, what is 20 million in the Premier League? In Italy, 20 million. There's not a single team so far this year that has spent 20 million.
I completely agree. I it is a bit of a depressing way, I suppose, to look at things, but I forget to pose this in the Patreon group chat, but could this actually give Roma a better chance at finishing in a better position near the tops of the table? I don't know, because because the way it was posed, I forget who said it in the group chat, but it was essentially, well, nobody is doing anything this summer, and I have to be honest, the way we view the transfer market is sort of like a lifeline, so to speak. This is the life preserver. Your team is bad. The transfer market is a way to not be bad. And partially that is true. But as you said, a manager coming into his third season, could the continuity be the most important thing of all? I have to be frank. I usually, because it's Roma, we are more often than not in a position to be entering a new season with the same manager for the third season in a row. Do you want to venture to guess the last time that happened?
A long time ago.
That is
Far, far away.
all. Yes, that is the only thing people need to know. It's been a long, long time, a very long time. I believe the last time they went into season 3 with the same manager, it is the guy who is now the manager of Napoli, yeah?
Yeah.
And we all know how that went in year 3. Hopefully things go much different this time, obviously.
So what? So it's been 8 years.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, even before him, it had to have been Spalletti, yeah?
Spalletti, yeah. So again,
Okay,
another 8 years.
so what? This is something we are not, and if you look before even Spalletti,
We're
before
not
him,
used to this. No, we're not used to this.
Capello.
And it's very, yeah, it's very rare. It's not a good. Usually, it doesn't work out great, but fingers crossed. The important thing is not to give up. And I think like that applies really to all Serie A. Like, the transfer window is not a. Teams cannot base their entire projection for the year, their entire ambition for the year, based on the summer window. That's what the rich teams do in the Premier League or La Liga, right? They, based on the number of signings, on the money spent, they set the ambitions. Oh, Arsenal have spent this amount of money, they need to compete for the title. Oh, Manchester City have spent so much over the years, well, it's only natural for them to win a Champions League title once in a while. In Serie A, that's not how it works, right? Like Napoli, they have just won the league. Would you say they are favorites right now to win it again? I really don't know. I don't know
No,
if it
no.
works like that. Milan, same thing last year. No. Inter, the year before that, no, because the transfer window for Italian clubs is not the pivotal moment. The pivotal moment is the preparation leading up to the season, and then how the team handles all the side effects of a long season and playing across a number of competitions. Can they focus on the league? Can they focus on Europa League? Can they remain healthy? That's it. Really comes down to that. I don't think a transfer window has had a major impact on any of the Italian clubs for a long time. Maybe really, with the exception of last year with Napoli, with the addition of Kvara, and with Osimhen's development under Spalletti. Really, that's, for my opinion, that's been maybe the exception to the rule. That for the last few years, it's really been survival of the fittest. So when Roma, again, they look for the midfield, we get the same names mentioned: Marcel Sabitzer, Renato Sanchez. Those are the two names that are thrown out there constantly. Why? Because of connections, because of their availability, and because they don't fit the project of the respective teams. In Renato Sanchez's case, is because Jorge Mendes is offering him all over the world for the past 2 years. And that's That's about it. And maybe because they can be loaned out. And that's what we base our entire idea of a midfield reinforcement for this season. Like, think about it. That's how it works. You're not thinking about, oh, who's the club scouting. It's who is the cheapest option and who has been more or less, mediocre over the past 2 years in order for them to become available and affordable for us.
Well, if this doesn't get you excited for the remainder of the summer until the season begins, I don't know what will. We will
I'm
leave
sorry.
it there then. No. There is no need to paint, try to put makeup on a pig, so to speak. It is what it is. We will leave it there. We will be back next week. Let's see what happens in the coming days, if there are any movements on the market, and we will react to anything if there is. But until next time.